say thank you for the opportunity and the blessing and the encouragement and criticism that Seymour Heights has given me this summer. It's really been great. You definitely have a great man of leadership with Harold. I've learned a lot from him just this summer and just as a professor as well. But before I begin, by a show of hands, how many of you would consider yourselves to be wise? No, in Christ Jesus. Not so many. All right, well, sit back. This is going to be a long sermon then. You got a long sermon. No, but let me tell you about this story about a not-so-wise man. See, on this plane there was a doctor, a lawyer, a priest, and a Boy Scout. And suddenly the plane developed some engine trouble. And so it started to go down, and the pilot grabbed a parachute, and he told the other passengers, you should probably grab one as well and be prepared to jump. Unfortunately, there were only 3 parachutes. And the doctor grabbed one and said, I saved lives, so I must live. So she grabbed a parachute and jumped. Then the lawyer said, I'm the wisest man in the world. I must live. So he grabbed a bundle and jumped. So the priest told this little boy, said, you take this last one and jump because you have a long life to live. And the boy said, well, don't sweat it, Father. The wisest man in the world just took my backpack and jumped out of the plane. So, it's just a little funny story. But go ahead and turn into your Bibles and phones to James 3, 13 through 18, and that's where we'll be today. In life, we make good and bad decisions based on the knowledge we have. Good and bad knowledge. But this wisdom that we're going to learn about today, how do we gain that? Is there bad wisdom? Yes. The wisdom we receive and learn in life is not always good to obtain. And today, as we continue our series in James, he talks about earthly wisdom. That's bad. And this heavenly wisdom that God provides is good. Now, you might be wondering what kind of wisdom you might have. Or how do I obtain that heavenly wisdom? Maybe you don't want wisdom at all, but the thing is, every one of us has already had some. Bad and good. And we have the potential to grow in wisdom every day. In Luke 2:52, it talks about how Jesus grew in wisdom and stature when he was here on earth. And if we are to be like Jesus and grow to be like him, we must constantly be growing in wisdom. So today I want you to learn what wisdom is, the definition, and how we relate it to others. And James warns us of this earthly and worldly wisdom, and he challenges us to pursue and obtain this godly, heavenly wisdom. Recently I've been reading this book called The Divine Mentor by Wayne Cordeiro. And in it he talks about how someone once told him to receive this divine wisdom, this heavenly wisdom that we're going to talk about. We have to come to God stupid, not knowing anything, ready to learn, ready to listen. So today, before we dive in, I want us to say this prayer. It's going to sound silly, but really take it to heart that today, as you come before the Lord, as you come before the Word, that you don't know anything of what you're going to learn. Focus in what God is saying to you, what James is challenging your heart to do. And I know growing up in my house, stupid was not a word to be said. So parents, please forgive me. It's just to make the point. So it should be coming up on the screen. Let's say this together. God, today I come to you stupid, not knowing who I am. I come with not a childlike faith, a childish faith. Open my heart, my mind to your word, that I may receive wisdom today and continue to gain wisdom through my life. Amen. So let's go ahead and start reading James verse 13. He says, who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. The Greek word for wisdom is sophos, and that means insight into the true nature of things. Wisdom is not having immense knowledge. As James begins, wisdom is understanding. Wisdom is not theoretical, but it's practical in our lives. How many of you as a kid, or maybe recently, touched a hot stove? It hurts. It's hot. Well, did you touch it again? No. Hopefully not. If so, stop it. And if you can, Harold's here in the office, 7 to 5. But we gain that wisdom that stove is hot and it hurts to touch. So wisdom is gained by experiences, breakups, parenting, divorce. And as children, we go through a lot of experiences gaining wisdom of what to do and what not to do. In social media today, there's these challenges that are arising, like the cinnamon challenge, where you take a spoon and you dump cinnamon on it and you eat it and try to swallow it. Or recently eating Tide Pods. Or salt and ice challenge, where you put some salt on your arm or somewhere and hold ice onto it. It's supposed to burn. That's bad wisdom. It's bad experiences that we learn from. James starts with a rhetorical question for the church and the teachers. He asks, who among them are wise and understanding? James then explains to them, whoever is wise should be this. By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. Meekness in other translations is said to be humility, gentleness. It's not something, it sounds like it's not something you want to have. And for James, wisdom is not intellectual, it's behavioral. Greeks in the time looked at humbleness, gentleness, meekness as a weakness. But when Jesus came to earth, he raised his virtue, he raised his characteristic to be a strong thing for our lives. He says in Matthew 5:5 in the Beatitudes that, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. In the Psalms, this virtue still rings true. And God has been speaking of this virtue of being meek, being gentle, being humble throughout the ages, and I want you to hear it today. Being humble, being gentle, and meek is not a bad thing. But do you know what it means? Meekness is not putting yourself over others to further your own being, but trusting God in everything, that it will be peace and not self-promotion. Meekness is having your strength or your pride under control. James reminds us that the good works we are to do, when we do the word, when we hold our tongue, when we don't judge, all these reflect meekness, but also all these reflect wisdom that you have gained and that you should practice. But where is wisdom found? And I think we all know the answer. It's God. And James said it in chapter 1, verse 5. He said, let those who ask for wisdom ask it to God, because he gives generously to those who ask. Now, I'm not saying he's going to grant that wish for you like a snap of the finger. But if we live well with God, and we're constantly in the Word, growing our spiritual lives, living humbly, we'll become wiser and wiser in our lives. Have you ever heard of the phrase, out of the mouth of babes? It comes from the simple truth that sometimes it takes a child to reveal lasting wisdom. Here are some examples. Patrick, age 10, said, never trust a dog to watch your food. Michael, 14, said, never tell your mom her diet's not working. Naomi, 15, said, if you want a kitten, start out by asking for a horse. Lauren, age 9, said, felt markers are not good to use as lipstick. Joel, 10 years old, said, don't pick on your sister when she's holding a baseball bat. And Eileen, age 8, said, never try to baptize a cat. Now, there are a lot of smart people that are just missing wisdom. They're educated and they have the degrees behind their name, but they can't get along with people. But their wisdom is not found in God. If we keep reading in James, he explains this wisdom that it's not from God. He says, starting in verse 14, but if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual. It's demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. James gives us all these warning signs of characteristics that we have that do not produce or harvest true wisdom. He's kind of harsh here, but there's no other way to put it but to avoid earthly wisdom and avoid worldly wisdom. These phrases, bitter jealousy, selfish ambition, wisdom of this world is earthly, it's unspiritual, it's demonic. It's like, calm down, James. not supposed to have it. But no, just like before in the other chapters and what you'll hear later on, James just keeps pushing down this gas pedal that challenges our hearts to change. We need to realize that our earthly wisdom and need to gain heavenly wisdom. First, let's talk about those phrases: bitter jealousy and selfish ambition. The one thing about these is that they're internal. Bitter jealousy, envy, and bitterness alone are already bad. Put together, they're ruthless. Bitter jealousy is being jealous with action. It's a hurtful revenge. Selfish ambition in the Greek meant putting yourself over others for your own gain. It's the opposite of meekness. Having these in our hearts makes us a lethal weapon for the enemy. We control our hearts and we control what our motives are. And the only way to fix our hearts is to repair it in God's Word. Amen. It makes us puff out our chest and say, "Look at me, I know everything," with bitter jealousy and selfish ambition. But God shakes his head at us disappointed because the truth we spew is acidic wisdom. And I think we've all seen acidic wisdom corrodes churches, communities, and relationships. We're supposed to grow in true wisdom and wisdom from above. And we grow out of false wisdom by reading constantly in the Word, having God as a mentor, having Moses, Joseph, Ruth, Esther as mentors who give wisdom that we read about into our lives. Still going back to the Divine Mentor, the book that I'm reading. Cordero says this when he goes to the Word for answers. He says, "I have oft strolled with David and listened to the sound of his heart in the hills. I have traversed the hot sands of Sinai with Moses and listened to the Niagara of grumbling skeptics. I frequently have accompanied Solomon and listened to wisdom shouting in the city square. I have even wrestled with Samson, begging for answers to why he was so duped by Delilah." You know, the book of Proverbs, probably the book of wisdom you could call it, reveals how much we need God's wisdom. In chapter 2 of Proverbs, verses 3 through 6, it says, "Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding." And then in chapter 9, verse 10 and 12. Verse 10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight." Verse 12 says, "If you are wise for yourself. But if you scoff, you alone will bear it." Be with God constantly. Be with those who are wise, not of earthly wisdom, but those who are wise with you and with God. Because being with God makes you become more and more like him. Learning and experiencing God through what the Holy Spirit brings into our lives makes us understand who God is better. Maybe you're being hindered by the world's wisdom that you're so busy all the time that you think you have no time to spend with God. High schoolers, listen to this statistic. By the time you graduate high school, statistics say you will have watched more than 16,000 hours of television. You will have spent more than 14,000 hours in an educational institution. And if you go to church for just 2 hours a week, you will have spent under 2,000 hours getting spiritual help. So to draw on when it comes to making a decision in life, a wise decision, you'll have 8 times as much TV and 7 times as much world and culture and education as you'll have with the church. Earthly wisdom is just knowledge. Knowledge doesn't equal wisdom. Having knowledge but no wisdom or little causes problems in our lives. We just know facts. We don't know heart or situation. We just know information, but not application. The knowledge of the world is always changing. A long time ago, we thought the world was flat, and now we know that it is round. Pluto was a planet, now it's not. Y2K was going to end the human race, and 2012 was the year of the end of the world. You know, they say that the total written knowledge in the world is said to have doubled between the years 1450 and 1750. And then to have doubled again between 1750 and 1900. And between 1900 and 1950, human knowledge doubled once more, and then again from 1950 to 1975. Now it is believed to have doubled every 900 days. And by the year 2020, global knowledge is predicted to double every 72 days. But how do we relate this wisdom to others that we're supposed to learn? How must we receive wisdom from God? Do we act on it and share it? We'll keep reading about God's wisdom is pure. In verse 17, it starts off, but the wisdom from above is first pure. And pause. What does pure mean? Pure means uncorrupted. It means authentic. And James not only here, but the first 2 chapters have been challenging us to live in authentic faith. Pure is the same word for the Christian character, integrity. You know, wisdom from above builds relationships instead of tearing them down. How is a relationship in anything going? It's built on trust. It's built on respect, honesty. It's built on authenticity in the person. You don't want someone in your life that cheats or lies or manipulates you. Being wise is being truthful, trustworthy, compassionate toward those around you. What else is wisdom from above? If we keep reading in verse 17, he says, the wisdom from above is peaceable, it's gentle, it's open to reason, it's full of mercy and good fruits, it's impartial and sincere. Wisdom from God is peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits. It's impartial and sincere. Sounds a lot like what James has already been telling us. And maybe you've received wisdom from James already, and that's great. But it's not just James who gives us wisdom in the Bible. But still, how do we relate this wisdom to others? We relate wisely to others by growing ourselves in wisdom. James clearly tells us that when we bring about peace to others, from our own peace, we harvest righteousness. It says in verse 18, and a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. And when our wisdom brings fruit, God will bless us with righteous conduct. The wisdom that brings fruit is saying, I won't compromise your integrity. I won't antagonize your anger. I won't minimize your feelings. I won't criticize your suggestions. I won't emphasize your mistakes. I won't disguise my weaknesses. Do you disguise your weaknesses to others? Do you puff out your chest and to think to be better than others around you? Are you the lawyer that is so wise you take a Boy Scout's backpack and jump out of a plane? Who are you? Are you a Christian reading your Bible every day? Are you in constant communication with God, being in prayer? Are you serving, reaching, giving generously your time, your energy, your money to further the kingdom of God? Are you bringing peace or chaos into the world? Now, James wants us to be wise in our Christian lives. We have 2 options: to be wise in worldly wisdom or in godly wisdom. It's your choice. We have turned to the world for so many answers. We ask Siri what the weather's like today. Or we Google how to become a Vols fan. This is just knowledge. It's not wisdom. Remember, wisdom means insight into the true nature of things. Wisdom is seeing and responding the way God wants me to. But there are people outside our doors, outside our walls, outside your homes, outside your comfort zones, that need direction, a path. They need wisdom from God in us saying, you might be going through this grief and death, but be the one that prays with them and helps them find joy in that situation. There might be people who have been going down a long and broken road. Help them turn around and show them this paved road that God has laid out before them. Who has arms open wide at the end of that road waiting for them. Maybe you know someone who's been struggling with addiction for a long time. Be the one who helps them to meetings, to rehab. Because for them alone, it's hard. But for you and their accountability and just to be there, it makes it a little easier. Be the one to tell them about your Savior. The one who died for you and me and them. Who loved them so much and who loves you so much that he sacrificed his own body that we should never experience that death. Do you care about those people? And maybe they're already in your life and you just don't have the wisdom and understanding to approach them with a pure heart and a pure mind. And you get it here. And you get it here at Seymour Heights. You get it in the Gospels. You get it in James. You get it in prayer. Once you get it, share it. Because what we read and what we acquire is not just to be saved for us. It's for everyone who's ready to listen. Wisdom grows the kingdom of God here on earth. Wisdom is knowing the Father's arms are open wide, and you can just walk up and collapse in them. Because no matter where you're at in life, you can ask for forgiveness. You can ask for peace, for wisdom, for strength, for gentleness, for mercy, for open-mindedness, for your pure heart. The worship band is going to sing a song that tells about these words of coming to the altar, of seeing God there with his arms open wide, waiting for you to run to him because he yearns for your love. And he has enough love to just give to you and to others in your life. And maybe today you realize you are just dumb. Dumb in the fact that you need prayer to go on tomorrow. Prayer to help you back on that path to God. The altar is always open. It doesn't close once you leave the doors and once I'm done talking and once you head to your cars. It doesn't close. It's always open as his arms are always open wide. Maybe today is that day you make that wise decision that Savior that we talked about, I want him to make him mine.